In this video, we will talk about the melting temperatures for primers, what is the best optimum primer melting temperature, and what happens if the melting temperature of primers is too low or too high. So, first of all, what is the primer melting temperature? As we have discussed in previous video, it is the temperature at which half of our double-stranded DNA in the PCR reaction mixture will be converted into single-stranded DNA, and this indicates the stability of our DNA duplex. So next, what is the best melting temperature for primers? For primer designing, the best melting temperature is usually between 52 to 58 degrees centigrade. Longer strands tend to have higher melting temperature, and many factors affect the melting temperature of primers, such as strand length and GC content. So the longer strands have higher melting temperature, and GC content also affects the melting temperature, and higher GC content also results in higher melting temperature because of the three hydrogen bonds between guanine and cytosine. So what happens if the melting temperature for primer is too high? The melting temperature basically indicates the stability of a DNA-DNA hybrid, and it determines the annealing temperature. If the melting temperature is too high, the annealing temperature will also be higher than required, and this will result in insufficient hybridization of primer and template, resulting in a lower PCR product. Higher melting temperature above 65 degrees centigrade has a tendency for secondary annealing as well. Next, what happens if the melting temperature for primers is too low? As we have discussed that melting and annealing temperatures are directly related to each other. Low melting temperature will result in low annealing temperature, and due to very low annealing temperature, both the forward and reverse primers will bind to sequences other than the intended target, hence resulting in the formation of undesired non-specific duplexes or intramolecular hairpins. So this results in non-specific PCR amplification, and there will be a reduction in the yield of your desired PCR product. So next is what affects the melting temperature of primers. So a number of factors affect the melting temperature of primers, and the most important of these is the GC content. It basically depends upon the GC content, which is used to predict the annealing temperature of primers. And a higher GC content results in higher melting temperature, as you know that guanine and cytosine bases have three hydrogen bonds between them, and these are highly stable. So these bonds provide stability to the duplexes, and this will result in a higher melting temperature of primers.